Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to talk about how to play slow jazz, one of the hardest things you'll have to do in this genre. So I'm going to talk about my concepts for doing it. Pretty soon we're going to ramp up here and do a whole big band series, and I'm going to play all kinds of tunes, dozens of them, with recordings, because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And you'll hear all kinds of slow tempos and fast tempos and medium tempos and lots of styles of music. But I'm trying to cover all these bases here before we dive into that. So this particular subject is near and dear to me because it was something that when I was young, I couldn't do. I could not play slow. I would always speed up and rush, and it was a problem. So I ended up practicing that for about 6 months straight. I didn't play anything but slow. I didn't practice anything but slow tunes. And the way I did that, I'm not using a metronome today, but the way I do that is I put on triplets on the metronome, doing this. And I just play like that for hours, okay? And you can use any of the triplet techniques that are in, some of these jazz books. Again, John Riley's books, Syncopation, the Alan Dawson way of doing that book, Jim Chapin's jazz books, 2 of them. There's really one that's available still. And that's got a whole triplet section in it. My book, which we're going to be using today, has a large section of this as well. So any of these things will work. The whole idea, though, is to have that triplet subdivision always in your head so that you don't rush. The tendency is to rush always when you're playing a slow tempo. And to do that, you have to subdivide. Now, you can't really use a metronome when you're playing this stuff live. I would definitely not suggest doing it. That's why I'm not using one today. Most of my videos you watch, I do use a click, but this one I'm not. So you can hear how I developed this without hearing that constant click, okay? The first thing that you want to do, and we're going to use my book. Those of you who have it, you can turn to it. Those who don't, I'll post some stuff on the screen. But I have lots of exercises in here that I use for playing slow because, like I said, it's so important. And a lot of drummers can't do it. The first thing you want to do is be able to play the ride cymbal, the hi-hat, and the bass drum in that slow tempo. Don't worry about the left hand. So put on some music. The Tommy Igoe book works well. He's got maybe 10 slow jazz things in the first volume in the jazz section. Meet the Bass Player, which is a CD by Alan Cox, works really well for that. He's got like 3 or 4 slow tempos. Anything that will help you play with a bass player is totally suggested, okay? So if we turn in my book to let's say page 124, we'll do that first. And this has some triplet bass drum rhythms written in. But like I said earlier, you want to just start with your 3 limbs, your right hand, if you're a lefty, your left hand, your bass drum, and your hi-hat, just doing this. Now, if I've already posted this video on legato playing, this is definitely legato playing. So I'm letting that stick bounce on the cymbal, but it is controlled, and control is the magic word here. You have to have tremendous control to play slow. The bass drum, you're playing very light, but that's helping you keep time. And the hi-hat for now, sort of a traditional jazz way, we're playing it on 2 and 4. Now, once you feel comfortable and you're playing with some music like that, then start adding your left hand, start doing some comping. Okay, and simple. And don't worry about the books at this point. Just try to play with music. That's the number one thing to do first. Goes against conventional wisdom, I know. But try to play with music first and get a good feel before you start working on technical exercises in this regard. It's very, very important. I learned over teaching for many, many years, this works better teaching it backwards like that. Then when you feel like you have a good feel, you can record yourself, you're comfortable, then you open the books. So we'll go to page 124, and we'll start with some of these exercises. Now, they're not easy, okay, because you're dealing with your left hand and your bass drum. So we'll play the first line. Now you'll notice there how relaxed and bouncy I am. That's the key. It's flow. Again, control of the bounce, control of the rebound. That also will give you a beautiful sound on the instrument. You won't sound harsh. All right? And you just, cycle through all these exercises. I'll play a few more lines for you. Here's the second line going on. And once again, you'll notice I'm not playing hard or aggressively. I'm just letting everything bounce, including the bass drum and the snare drum, trying to develop flow rather than intensity at this point. Because flow is what's important for playing these slow tempos. And you proceed through these exercises. The next thing I would tell you to do is start playing some broken exercises, so things with rests that don't have a constant triplet flow. So we'll find those on page 126. I'll play some of this for you. Much, much harder, because now we have space between the notes. All right, so that makes it really, really difficult, especially the bass drum stuff. So if you come across a measure that's hard, obviously, whenever you have 2 notes or 3 notes on the bass drum, you want to work on that. So, or you could just break it down into a repetitive exercise like this. It's very difficult to play that relaxed and slow. It's much easier to do it faster. And I'll say all these exercises are easier faster. Much, much easier. Okay, than playing slow. Because when you play slow, you don't have that continuous bounce that happens. You have to practice that bounce to play slow, to get the space between the notes to line up evenly. And that's where the metronome comes in, putting it on all triplets. The next step, and again, this might take you, 6 months to a year to get through. We're going real fast. But the next step would be to combine 16th notes and triplets. So if you go to page 127, we have an example of that. And so on. Doesn't have to be perfect. It could be a little sloppy like that. It's fine, but the control is what you're going for. If you can play that stuff under that with a metronome and with a bass player, recording, whatever, you're going to have no trouble playing slow grooves like this. Okay, so it's kind of like a turbocharged car. You get your technique so far beyond what you'll ever need that everything is just smooth sailing. There's no taxing, there's no tax on the engine. It's just you're idling basically when you're playing. So that's where these studies come in. I would never kind of play that stuff that I played from these exercises on a gig with someone. I play a little of it, but not too much. It's to build up strength and concentration. The only other thing I want to talk about today about playing slow is ride cymbal patterns as far as the distance between the triplet. There's another way you can play that's tighter, like this. So that's based off the quarter note, all right? So I'm just sticking quarter notes there, not triplets. And then that ride cymbal triplet, da-da, da-da, is very tight. Almost like a double time thing. Like Philly Joe does on Blue Train, if you listen to that record, okay, on the tune, Blue Train. So that's something that's totally legit, and you may want to do that. It's kind of almost a shuffle feel. Now, to do that, you have to almost have your fingers on a spring, where you're clenching the stick. That's something you can practice away from the kit just by doing that on a practice pad or a cymbal. It's also great for a two feel, playing in two. I'm about to do a video on that particular topic because I've gotten a lot of questions. So we'll talk about that once again when we do that video. All right, but that kind of tight ride, or the quarter note ride with the little embellishment there, is really effective if you want to suck everybody into your orbit there when you're playing a slow tune. So I hope this helps with ways to develop it. I know the coordination exercises are complicated, but the first thing you want to do is do simple ones like I showed you. And again, there's lots of books out, including my books, that have exercises that you can use. But eventually, you want to be able to play complex things under a slow ride pattern, okay? Because if you do that, you'll be so strong in your timekeeping that there'll be never a doubt, where that triplet rhythm is. So I'll just play just a little bit for you, and then we'll call it a day.